Thank you. And let's give it up for this terrific band. Thank you. Beautiful. You know, while I'm giving out applause, I want to take a moment to applaud this community. From coast to coast, from small towns to larger markets, you are the backbone of this country. We are community banking. Let's give yourselves a big round of applause to start today. In addition to our shared love of community banking, there's another common thread that unites us, our love for this country. Sure, we might have differing approaches to tackling the challenges we face, but as Americans, our shared belief in the strength of our community drives us forward, and the politics of community banking pull us together. And together, we are building a better, stronger tomorrow, every single one of you. Whether you're at home or in this room watching this, know that your hard work matters. Your resilience matters. And the impact that you have on your communities, folks, it's profound. From the teller counter to the corner office, you make a difference. And as your partner, your advocate, and your megaphone, ICBA stands steadfast by your side. Together, we focused exclusively on creating an environment where community banks don't just survive, don't just thrive, but flourish. Well, many of you know that I, too, am a proud community banker. And when I get up here in front of any group of my peers, I love to share stories. And I've witnessed firsthand the power a passionate story can have. But you know, it wasn't until recently that I realized how my childhood shaped that love for storytelling. I trace it all back to my grandfather, who we called Tata. He taught me a very simple but powerful lesson. He would say, "Hita, abre la boca." Open your mouth. At first I thought he meant that I needed to literally open my mouth to clearly enunciate what I was saying. But as I grew older and our conversations evolved, I understood it was about using my voice to advocate, to inspire, to take action, and to create change. And Tata knew a thing or two about taking action. His journey was one of persistence. The son of a sheep herder, he became the first in his family to get a college education and go on to serve as a Navy officer. But when he returned to Taos, New Mexico to start a law practice, no one would give him a loan. Well, he very easily could have given up. Instead, he channeled his frustration, maybe a little bit of stubbornness, into purpose and decided to open his own bank. Simple, right? Well, after 10 years of multiple denied charter applications, he founded a community bank, which became a local source of strength and resilience. And to this day, our bank proudly serves our community. We've got a couple of those leaders here in the room with us today. Tata's persistence and drive to overcome challenges in my DNA. And it is a hallmark trait of every community banker I know. Over 1,000 of our members have charters that are over 100 years old. This industry has managed through ups and downs time and time again. And today, we face all kinds of headwinds. 7,000 pages of new regulations, shrinking margins, talent shortages, fierce competition. But like Tata, like me, like you, community bankers are not defined by challenges. You're defined by how you rise above them. And together, we've kept the rhythm steady, amplifying our voices and taking action. And this is why it is so good to be with you here at ICBA Live. Here is where we amplify our voices identify and build upon the solutions to these challenges and how this industry evolves, how we continue this legacy, how we develop the next generation of community bankers is an effort we all need to embrace. We've got a record number of first-time attendees gathered here. Give you a hint, you can identify them by the white lanyards, so look around. These folks increase the volume and voice and the strength of our association. So if you see a first-time attendee, introduce yourself and offer advice so they can make the most of ICBA Live and take advantage of the expanding suite of ICBA services. We have so much to offer, and we are constantly evolving. For example, ICBA Payments, formerly known as ICBA Bank Card, in its 40th year of delivering payment solutions exclusively for community banks, is undergoing an incredible transformation to meet the needs of today and tomorrow. ICBA CRA Solutions celebrates 25 years this year and is another example of innovation and progress to meet the community banks' needs as we drive local economic development. And over the past year, we've doubled down on our efforts to empower you to tell your unique stories through the Bank Locally movement, the Marketing Resource Center, and the introduction of the Marketing Certification Program. These resources are designed to help you differentiate your bank, connect with your community, and amplify the message of what makes community banking special. In short, we are here to support you in telling your story. And while it's by design, we mirror the needs of our members. That is only possible with your meaningful and regular feedback. You can make sure we're getting that valuable feedback through the ICBA community, our online peer-to-peer forum that now has nearly 5,000 members regularly communicating there. Or directly to your member relations officer, or directly to me. You all know, I want to hear the feedback, so let me know. We are here to serve you. And there is no place where the strength of our collective voices matters more than in our advocacy. More than ever, our voices are needed, and every day we see the real impact of your persistent voices. You know, one of my favorite examples this past year of community banking persistence is the way we've elevated public scrutiny of credit union acquisitions of community banks this last year. Talk about blood pressure getting a little elevated. Every unfortunate time a new acquisition is announced, we're speaking out, ensuring our perspective is part of every media story, large and small. That steady, persistent drumbeat is raising the volume, and folks are taking note as we call attention to the outrageous credit union practices, like leveraging their tax exemption to raise Wall Street funds, and by naming rights to stadiums while calling themselves community banks. And polling shows that Americans are also taking note and growing increasingly uneasy. And last month, we saw the former chairman of the FDIC, Sheila Bair, come out with an op-ed in the Washington Post titled, "Tax-Exempt Credit Unions Are Thriving at the Public's Expense." And today, we are calling for the taxation of credit unions over $1 billion in assets. And notably, in recent budget discussions, credit union taxation has been listed as a potential pay for. This is what our persistence is capable of. Yes, thank you, exactly. We are making progress here. I know it's a long road that many of us have been fighting for quite some time, but you also know we are not going to stop. This work is all part of ICBA's Repair, Reform, and Thrive agenda for the 119th Congress and new administration. The agenda is bold, but it's also a common sense roadmap. We're setting out to fix broken regulations like 1071, 1033, and CRA. Unleash the power of locally based banking by eliminating obstacles to de novo bank formation, and support tax policy that levels the playing field. And revisiting current deposit insurance and resolution requirements so that community bank customers have the same protections as the largest players in the market. And to fuel the future of our industry, we want to ensure that community banks are able to serve their local communities for years to come by addressing the structural deficiencies in the agencies, including the lack of official community bank representation in federal agencies like the FDIC, the CFPB, Treasury, and the FFIEC. By reevaluating the shortcomings of legislatively prescribed processes for bank failures and receivership, by which winners and losers are picked without regard to community impact. And preventing the erosion of the financial system and disintermediation of banking services caused by novel charters and tax-exempt credit unions. Supporting and strengthening the payment system and preserving the community bank position as a primary payments provider while addressing fraud risk and liability. Ensuring a level playing field that limits government-sponsored entities, unfair advantages in rural America, and other communities across the US. The list is long, but it's important. And we have already made great strides in this Congress. The very first hearing of the House Financial Services Committee for the 119th Congress, very first, out of the gate, folks, was focused exclusively on community banks and improving the environment in which we operate. I had the opportunity to testify and elevate our needs and concerns. And at the very same time, our incoming chairman, Alice Frazier, testified at a House Small Business Committee hearing. Our issues are front and center, and so is our voice. After recovering from the over 4-hour hearing, yes, we did not move. We took questions for a solid 4 hours. It was very interesting. I thought about how I would have shared that experience with my grandfather if he was still with us. And I think I would have started by first and foremost sharing my excitement about how the very first hearing of the committee was all about community banking. And I could just see him smiling. And then I think I would have lamented the incredibly partisan tone in DC that has created so much noise and distraction. And I can just hear him saying, "Well, Hita, what are you going to do about it?" Well, community bankers, we bring solutions to the table. The impact we make in our communities is something all sides can agree on. This is at the core of ICBA advocacy. As a bipartisan organization, we stand for the politics of community banking and bring people to the table focused exclusively on community and local economies. And because of our focus, ICBA's Repair, Reform, and Thrive agenda has become a household name with members of Congress and the new Trump administration as the blueprint for driving economic development across the US. And thanks to our collective actions, several bills have been introduced on key ICBA priorities, including repealing 1071 and the CFPB overdraft rule, BSA reforms, and tailored regulations for community banks. ACRE, or accessing credit for our rural economies, has been reintroduced, as well as legislation to promote de novo banks. And the FDIC brokered deposit rule proposal, the corporate governance proposal, and the FDIC incentive-based compensation proposal have all been withdrawn, thanks to your active grassroots engagement and letters to the agency demonstrating the impact to our communities and customers. And just last week, our officers, Lucas, Jack, Alice, Derek, Mike, Quentin, Doug, along with Ann and I, had the opportunity to meet face-to-face, just ICBA, with Treasury Secretary Bessent and several senior Treasury officials in DC. We talked Repair, Reform, Thrive, but in addition to that, after hearing reports that the administration was considering consolidating FDIC and Fed supervision into the OCC, we voiced our very strong support of independence of the financial regulatory agencies for the dual banking system. And while we are all for finding efficiency and curtailing bureaucracy, maintaining independence, charter choice, and a community bank perspective and supervision is something we are not willing to sacrifice. And just a few days after that meeting, Secretary Bessent said in his speech in New York that the Trump administration's work to streamline banking regulations and ensure agency coordination would not include consolidation of the nation's prudential banking regulators. He said, to be clear, that does not mean consolidation of the agencies. And it gets even better. He also went on to cite the value of community banks to local communities and the problem of excessive regulatory burden, noting community banks, and I quote, are one of the most important reasons for the US economic performance of recent decades. But, and I continue the quote, and Jack, this might sound a little familiar, they are overloaded with unproductive reporting requirements that have little to do with reducing material financial risk. So back to that question from my grandfather, what are you going to do about it? Tata, we are telling our story. We're advocating for this great industry. We are standing up for what we believe in, and we are preserving the future for community banks. We're taking action. And we all know that so much is happening right now at such a fast pace. It can be uncertain and a little overwhelming at times. Seemingly every day, something new is announced. I mean, who knows what's been announced since I've been speaking here in the last few minutes. But since we've been in Nashville, I lost track of days, I think it was just Monday, we had a stablecoin bill reintroduced in the Senate. Our team here in DC and back home has been working 24/7 to make sure that community banks' needs are addressed at every shift and turn of this legislation. So whether we're talking about the future of the CFPB or the fate of 1071, know that ICBA has your back. And folks, 1071 is a perfect example of something we are tackling from every angle. Whether through the legislative process and how we ensure ultimately a strategic long-term repeal, or through the courts and litigation, or with the agency and the new director to ensure if in the near term we fast track the potential for repeal and proposal. In all of this, the constant is that ICBA is laser focused on the needs of this industry. Together, we are turning challenges into opportunities, leveraging our collective strength and persistence to write the next chapter for community banks. My grandfather's story inspired over 300 local citizens to invest in his vision of a local bank. These stories can change the course of history. They can create and spur growth in communities across this great nation. So here's my ask. Keep telling your story. Keep opening your mouth, abre la boca. Because the more of us that speak up for community banking, the greater our impact. When we amplify our voices, we have the power to shape what comes next. Thank you for your passion, your persistence, and your partnership. Onward, together.